Hello everyone, welcome to Current Affair MCQs program. Let's begin with previous day's practice question. Question was, consider the following statements. 1. Reduce risk from pesticides by at least 50% by 2030. 2. Tackle climate change through nature-based solutions. 3. Restore 30% degraded ecosystems globally by 2030. How many of the above is or are key goals of the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework? Only one, only two, all three, or none? The correct answer is option C, all three. The first part of COP15 took place in Kunming, China and reinforced the commitment to address the biodiversity crisis, and the Kunming Declaration was adopted by over 100 countries. Key targets of the GBF are reduce risk from pesticides by at least 50% by 2030. Hence, statement 1 is correct. Stop the extinction of known species and by 2050 reduce tenfold the extinction risk and rate of all species, including unknown. Tackle climate change through nature-based solutions. Hence, statement 2 is correct. Reduce pollution risk and negative impacts of pollution from all sources by 2030 to levels that are not harmful to biodiversity and ecosystem functions, and restore 30% degraded ecosystems globally on land and sea by 2030. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Hence, option C is the correct answer. Now, let's begin today's episode. First question is, consider the following statements regarding human trafficking. 1. Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013 addresses human trafficking for physical and sexual exploitation. 2. Mission Vatsalya supports child victims of trafficking. 3. The United Nations Convention on Transnational Organized Crime clearly defines organized crime, including activities like sex trafficking. How many of the statements given above are correct? Only one, only two, all three, or none? The correct answer is option B, only two. Measures taken by India to combat human trafficking. Constitutional and legislative provisions. Article 23(1) of the Constitution of India prohibits human trafficking and forced labor. Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1956 focuses on preventing trafficking for commercial sexual exploitation. Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013 addresses human trafficking for physical and sexual exploitation, slavery, and organ removal. Hence, statement 1 is correct. Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012 protects children from sexual abuse and exploitation, and initiatives taken are anti-trafficking cell established by MHA to coordinate and follow up on anti-trafficking actions, anti-human trafficking units. The MHA has established AHTUs to deal with law enforcement response on trafficking in human beings, excluding legislative, welfare, and promotional aspects, which are subject matters of the Department of Women and Child Development. Mission Vatsalya program. It supports child victims of crime, including trafficking. Hence, statement 2 is correct. International conventions on trafficking are UN Convention. The United Nations Convention on Transnational Organized Crime includes a protocol for the prevention, suppression, and punishment of trafficking in persons, especially women and children. India ratified the convention and implemented the Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013 in line with the protocol on trafficking in persons. However, UNCTOC defines an organized criminal group but does not provide a definition for organized crime. This lack of clear definition can hinder efforts to effectively combat organized crimes like sex trafficking. Hence, statement 3 is not correct. Hence, option B is the correct answer. Next question, consider the following statements. 1. Slavery was abolished across the British Indian Empire during Lord William Bentinck's tenure as Governor General. 2. Article 17 of the Indian Constitution prohibits human trafficking and forced labor. Which of the statements given above are correct? 1, only, 2, only, both 1 and 2, or neither 1 nor 2? The correct answer is option D, neither 1 nor 2. That is, both the statements are incorrect. Slavery was abolished across the British Indian Empire during the tenure of Lord Ellenborough as Governor General. Hence, statement 1 is not correct. The Charter Act of 1833 paved the way for the abolition of slavery across the British Indian Empire. Subsequently, in 1843, the Indian Slavery Act was passed, making slavery illegal throughout India. At that time, Lord Ellenborough served as Governor General. Article 23 of the Indian Constitution prohibits human trafficking and forced labor, safeguarding individuals from exploitation and ensuring their right to freedom and dignity. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. Traffic in human beings and beggars and other similar forms of forced labor are prohibited, and any contravention of this provision shall be an offence punishable in accordance with law. Hence, option D is the correct answer. Next question, consider the following statements regarding anti-dumping duty. 1. The agreement on implementation of Article 6 of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade 1994 governs the application of anti-dumping measures by members of the WTO. 2. Anti-dumping measures are bilateral actions taken by a member of WTO. Which of the statements given above are correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, or neither 1 nor 2? The correct answer is option A, 1 only. The Agreement on Implementation of Article 6 of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade 1994 governs the application of anti-dumping measures by members of the World Trade Organization, including India. Hence, statement 1 is correct. Anti-dumping duties are enforced as a protective measure under the multilateral regime of Geneva-based WTO to ensure fair trade practices. Anti-dumping measures are unilateral actions taken by a member of WTO after investigating and determining that dumped imports harm a domestic industry in line with the AD agreement. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. Hence, option A is the correct answer. Next question, consider the following characteristics. 1. Its underground COM stores energy, supporting its 10-year bloom cycle and 6-month fruiting period. 2. It mimics the stench of rotting flesh to attract its pollinators. 3. It blossoms on limestone hills in the rainforest of western Sumatra. Which of the following flowers is best described by the above characteristics? Ghost orchid, balsam root, Titan arum, or New England aster? The correct answer is option C, Titan arum. The Titan arum, one of the world's largest flowers, blooms once a decade in Australia, growing over 10 feet tall. Its unique pale yellowish structure rises from a COM, an underground energy storage system that supports its 10-year bloom cycle and 6-month fruiting period. The flower mimics the smell of rotting flesh to attract pollinators like carnivorous bees and flies, a process known as sapromyophidy. It blossoms on limestone hills in rainforest of western Sumatra, Indonesia. It doesn't bloom in the wild in Australia. Hence, option C is the correct answer. Next question, with respect to the NISAR satellite, consider the following statements. 1. It was built in collaboration with the United States. 2. It will be launched into high Earth orbit using ISRO's GSLV Mk3. 3. It is the first satellite equipped with both L-band and S-band radar systems. How many of the above statements is or are correct? Only 1, only 2, all 3, or none? The correct answer is option B, only 2. NISAR ISRO SAR mission, or NISAR, was built in collaboration with the United States and India under a partnership agreement signed in 2014 and is set to launch from Satish Dhawan Space Center in Andhra Pradesh, India. Hence, statement 1 is correct. The satellite will be launched into low Earth orbit using ISRO's Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle, that is GSLV Mk2. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. It will map the entire globe every 12 days, offering consistent data on ecosystems, ice mass, vegetation, sea level rise, groundwater, and natural hazards like earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, and landslides. It integrates two advanced radar systems, NASA's L-band radar and ISRO's S-band radar, marking it as the first satellite to carry both. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Hence, option B is the correct answer. Next question, consider the following statements regarding the Indian aviation industry. 1. The Open Skies policy announced in 1990 led to the entry of numerous airlines in India, with many eventually ceasing operations or merging due to industry challenges. 2. The Indian aviation industry currently faces a stable financial outlook with low debt levels. 3. Indigo, which started operations in 2006, now commands over half of the domestic market and has placed orders for a substantial number of new aircraft. How many of the statements given above are correct? Only 1, only 2, all 3, or none? The correct answer is option B, only 2. Indian aviation industry. The Open Skies policy introduced in 1990 allowed the entry of many airlines in India, but a large number of these eventually ceased operations or merged due to challenges such as high operational cost and competition. Hence, statement 1 is correct. The Indian aviation industry, despite growth in market size and dominance by Indigo and Tata Group Airlines, faces significant financial challenges, including high debt levels, primarily due to aircraft lease liabilities and ongoing losses. The industry's financial outlook remains precarious. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. Indigo, which launched in 2006, has grown to dominate the Indian market with over 63% of market share. It has also placed large orders for new aircraft, indicating its plans for continued expansion. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Hence, option B is the correct answer. Next question, consider the following statements regarding India's approach to carbon markets and emission reduction. 1. The Indian carbon market is designed as a carbon credit trading system where industries are given progressively tighter emission targets. 2. The Bureau of Energy Efficiency's Perform, Achieve and Trade scheme will be entirely replaced by the Indian carbon market. 3. Floor and forbearance prices are proposed in the Indian carbon market to stabilize credit prices, encouraging investments in decarbonization rather than treating penalties as a regular cost of doing business. How many of the statements given above is or are not correct? Only one, only two, all three, or none? The correct answer is option A, only one. Carbon markets and emission reduction. The Indian carbon market is designed as a carbon credit trading system with progressively tighter emission targets for industries, taking into account factors such as their current emission profiles and technology. Hence, statement 1 is correct. The Indian carbon market is not meant to entirely replace the Perform, Achieve and Trade scheme. Instead, it aims to build upon the foundational elements of PAT, especially for industries familiar with the scheme's accountability measures and trading provisions. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. Floor and forbearance prices are proposed in the Indian carbon market to maintain a minimum credit value and set a penalty limit. This structure is intended to encourage companies to invest in decarbonization efforts rather than absorbing penalties as part of regular business cost. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Hence, option A is the correct answer. Next question, consider the following statements. Statement 1, rural wage growth has shown significant improvement and non-agricultural wages have risen consistently over the last decade. Statement 2, structural changes such as higher government spending on the rural economy and prioritizing income growth for lower income groups are seen as essential to addressing long-term economic distress. Which one of the following is correct in respect of the above statements? Both statements are correct and statement 2 is the correct explanation for statement 1. Both statements are correct and statement 2 is not the correct explanation for statement 1. Statement 1 is correct but statement 2 is incorrect, or statement 1 is incorrect but statement 2 is correct. The correct answer is option D. Statement 1 is incorrect but statement 2 is correct. Although rural wage growth saw a modest improvement last year, non-agricultural wages have declined by 1% per annum over the past 5 years, indicating that wages have not consistently risen over the last decade. This slow growth is insufficient to address the broader economic challenges faced by the rural sector. Hence, statement 1 is not correct. Structural changes such as higher government spending on the rural economy and prioritizing income growth for low-income groups are seen as essential to addressing long-term economic distress. Hence, statement 2 is correct. So, statement 1 is not correct, but statement 2 is correct. Hence, option D is the correct answer. Next question, consider the following statements regarding the issue of delimitation in India. 1. Delimitation in India involves recalibrating the number of Lok Sabha seats per state based on population as required by Article 280 of the Constitution. 2. If delimitation proceeds, it could replace the number of seats for non-Hindi speaking states that have successfully controlled population growth. Which of the following statements is or are not correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, or neither 1 nor 2? The correct answer is option A, 1 only. Issue of delimitation in India. Article 82 of the Indian Constitution mandates delimitation or recalibration of Lok Sabha seats per state based on population data from each census. Hence, statement 1 is not correct. The Finance Commission is established under Article 280 of the Constitution. If delimitation proceeds, it could lead to a reduction in the number of seats for non-Hindi speaking states that have successfully controlled population growth while increasing representation for states with higher population growth rates. Hence, statement 2 is correct. Hence, option A is the correct answer. Last question, consider the following statements regarding cardiovascular kidney metabolic syndrome. 1. CKM syndrome is a complex condition involving the interaction of lifestyle factors and globalization's influence on health, contributing to a global health crisis. 2. CKM syndrome often begins with a gradual increase in body weight and waist circumference, which can lead to obesity and a cascade of health issues. 3. CKM syndrome primarily affects the heart, kidneys, liver, and blood vessels, increasing the risk of premature death in affected individuals. How many of the statements given above is or are correct? Only 1, only 2, all 3, or none? The correct answer is option C, all 3. Cardiovascular kidney metabolic syndrome, that is CKM syndrome, CKM syndrome is a complex health condition that arises from lifestyle factors and the impact of globalization, making it a growing global health concern. Health statement 1 is correct. CKM syndrome typically starts with a gradual increase in body weight and waist circumference, leading to obesity, which triggers a series of metabolic and health issues. Health statement 2 is correct. CKM syndrome primarily affects major organs such as heart, kidneys, liver, and blood vessels, significantly increasing the risk of premature death in those who develop it. Hence, statement 3 is correct, hence, option C is the correct answer. Now, moving on to practice question, consider the following statements regarding foreign investment in India. 1. India's domestic savings are insufficient to fund its growth, necessitating the import of foreign capital in various forms. 2. Foreign direct investment is considered more stable and beneficial for India's economy compared to foreign portfolio investment. 3. FPIs exceeding a 10% stake in an Indian company are automatically reclassified as FDI without requiring government approval or investee company concurrence. How many of the statements given above are correct? Only one, only two, all three, or none? Send the answer of this question in the comment section. Thanks for watching.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.